think it starts with an idea. We have an idea to give kids the opportunity to experience things they never experienced before. And when you have a team so dedicated to wanting to achieve that common goal, I think anything is possible.
Well, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about right now.
In a way, it's like a large family, right? Where nothing, there's just this overwhelming quality that we all share, that there's no discrimination of any kind because we all understand each other, and that if I were to, talk to a counselor or talk to my counselor, it'd all be good.
And camp members have attended each other's weddings, presentations, personal events. So once you're in the camp family, you're in for life.
I don't know. I'm just so thankful to be a part of it, honestly. When I came here initially, I knew a little bit about camp, but having gotten involved with Lauren and being part of her research team and feeling like you're really doing something meaningful, it gives you a level of satisfaction that you don't get a lot.
I don't think there's a better feeling than contributing, is what I've learned as I've gotten older, and to see how these volunteers can positively impact these children's lives. It's just, there's no better feeling in the world.
Camp Abilities in Brockport, New York is a sports and recreation camp for children and teens who have visual or hearing impairments. The young people who attend camp have opportunities to participate in all of the outdoor activities that other children are able to enjoy, such as canoeing, kayaking, stand-up paddleboarding, and swimming. But there is also gymnastics, rollerblading, tandem biking, beep baseball, high ropes, track and field, horseback riding, and goalball. Everything is possible.
Just in general, Camp Abilities really just ingrains it into your mind that nobody is better than you, in the sense that, just because someone can see more or hear more, it doesn't mean you're any less valuable as a person.
I think it opens their eyes. I feel like some of these kids come in and they might be the only one for a visual impairment in their district.
Yeah, I have direct impact on my students when I teach them. I hope I do anyway, but being able to work with this particular population, especially knowing the challenges they sometimes face and being able to make even a small difference, just really means a lot. So I'm really thankful to have gotten involved with camp.
One of the biggest challenges is keeping kids with visual impairments active, and Camp Abilities just brings that out for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, this Camp Abilities is Lauren, so she completely started it from the ground up. It's totally her vision, and it's just, yeah, it is her.
And I know how difficult it is to understand really how to teach kids with visual impairments, because one person really can make a difference. And I've seen it, I've done it. It's hard. It's a journey. It's not black and white, but it's a really wonderful, very rewarding path to go on if you choose to do something like that with your life. And so that's what I want, is I want every child to have a sports camp within a half a day's drive. I know this is why I'm here. This is why I'm on this earth. Like, I can't stop if I wanted to. Like, it's just part of who I am. And I love adaptive PE, and I love my students, and this gives them the leadership, it gives them the experiences that are going to make them a better professional, whether they go into the field of visual impairment or not.
When Lauren first started at SUNY Brockport, she saw that the adaptive physical education program was great, but it was missing one element. She realized that after graduation, her students would be expected to teach visually impaired students without ever working with them.
And I just thought that was wrong, because I also know that the kids that are in the schools now are experiencing teachers that don't know how to teach them. So marrying that, setting up a program where the kids can do sports and learn sports, and their future teachers can learn how to teach them, is going to really help the future.
It's hard not to get excited and have a lot of energy when she's around and she's talking about this, just because the passion really feeds off of her, and you can't help but kind of catch it.
And really what got me into it was my office when I first got a job here in 2005 was across the hall from Lauren. So Lauren has infectious energy and vision, and she roped me in, and so we started doing some research that summer, and I've been hooked and have been doing it ever since.
And I think without her passion, especially her knowledge on how to help kids with visual impairments make appropriate modifications and advocate for themselves, like camp wouldn't exist, and it wouldn't be what it is either.
What I always tell teachers is you want to offer all the kids the same sports. What differs is how they approach the sport, how they play it. So they might need more auditory equipment. They might need, like you said, a tactile board that Chris was showing you. They might need a human guide. We call it human guide, somebody to guide them through the game. And we always need somebody to describe what's happening in the game when it's happening. So if we're playing basketball, we might have somebody tapping their cane against the basket.
So giving an auditory stimulus is very common, you know, very kind of low-tech types of things, but it makes a huge difference in being able to locate where, you know, kind of orient where they need to shoot the ball.
Sometimes we have to slow the game down, maybe like volleyball or hockey. We might use a Frisbee instead of a puck for hockey, and maybe put some bells underneath the Frisbee, and then it opens up the whole game to them.
Right side! Center! Goal! Yeah, that's right, we're doing so good! Nice!
Okay. Cat, ready, set, pitch. You changed your swing on me! You went lower!
Can you lift your left foot up a little bit? Yep, right. Can you send a picture to my mom?
Yeah, I think we need picture of the video.
Scary. I thought it was not going to be that bad, but it was scary. But I was just not doing anything until like the cheers, and then it encouraged me to go up because I found out that I was getting cheers.
And so we don't exclude kids with visual impairments, we just change the way we play it. And we educate the other kids. I mean, one of the things that we did with Chris, he might have told you, he did a whole disability awareness with his own friends, where he taught them about what he can see. His vision teacher came and gave occluders to all his friends so that they understood what he needed in physical education.
You know, if I ever need to talk to him about struggles I face being visually impaired, he understands because he also has a visual impairment. And sometimes it's just good to have someone there to, you know, someone you can rely on, and that the connections you make at camp could genuinely last like years. I would say my favorite sport to participate in would be goalball, because I enjoy everybody being blindfolded and us aggressively rolling a ball at each other to try to score a point.
There's entirely different sports that puts everyone on the same playing field. So goalball, you'll have 3 athletes on each side, and they're completely blindfolded. So you could have one athlete that's blind and maybe the rest are sighted, or maybe they're all visually impaired at different levels. But then that way it evens the playing field so everyone doesn't have their sense of sight.
Probably my favorite part of goalball would be rolling the ball back at the other team.
I like the throwing more, although with the way I'm positioned, blocking is easy because I'm on the wing. If I were playing center, I'd be diving both ways, and it's hard to tell where the ball's coming.
When you've been doing it since you were 9, it just comes naturally, and I'm not even going full power.
What? You're not going full power?
No, they've been telling me max I could go is like 70 for one game.
I think it just takes a lot of practice. I've been doing this for a few years now, so having practice and knowing, which position works for me helps.
No, I'm used to it since I now play blind ice hockey as a goaltender and have those metal pucks shot at my body. So I'm just used to pain.
And whenever I throw, the ball tends to go more to the left. So if I were to play left wing, it would be out more of the time.
Love goalball, love hockey. I'm doing 2.5 hours of goalball tomorrow as well.
Camp Abilities also, they try to be on, try to help make parents and campers aware of, number one, opportunities, and also aware of different equipment and things that are out there that the kids can use to try, and different techniques. He runs with a tether. We have a soccer ball that makes noise that will kick around a little bit every once in a while. So that's our biggest takeaway from camp. When we were kind of ending, they were just starting to explore the use of smartwatches and stuff.
There are different factors that impact a person's motor behavior across their lifespan. It's important to have task modifications to help those that are visually impaired so they can participate in different physical activities. It's essential to provide appropriate types of instructional experiences. Currently, the research that Melanie is involved in is about pre-teaching students' movements.
Like this, you're going to have 2 straightaways, so you're going to ride all the way down. If there's a dial in the back, that is to tighten and loosen the helmet, so that's going to indicate the back.
That means they talk to the student about the lesson before they begin the activity, so they have some knowledge of what is going to happen.
Using tactile maps, for instance, to kind of demonstrate like what a playing field looks, quote unquote, looks like, but they can kind of feel through it to understand and kind of conceptualize that.
Another method Lauren and her team use to help visually impaired students to identify the space they are in is to provide a guided instruction, such as physically moving the students through the actions so they can experience it firsthand. They even have the students feel another individual move through the action so they get a sense of the physical space they are in.
If a child can't see the layout of a field, then you can kind of put like what the boundaries are. If it's like a basketball court, where the hoop is, and how far away that is, where the half court line is, those kinds of things, so they can tactically feel what something is, or it might be a course. I think things like that help.
So for example, if I were to describe a baseball field, it would be a V, and on one point would be a base, the other point, the right side, or the right point would be a base, the middle would be where you'd stand, and then everybody inside that triangle would be the outfielders. And so when we go over plays, because sometimes we do go over plays and it's pretty intense. Oh man, I'm stumped on this one. How do you describe a bumpy board? I mean, if I were to envision it right, it'd have like 2 points where you are, and then you would feel there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and whenever we're going over it, they say, because we always use like these circular discs to find where we are. So when we have to go, when we decide who goes where, it's like, okay, I want you to feel this board. I want you to envision it's just like this in front of you, right?
These are the kind of things that we're trying to change perceptions as much as we can. But there's just so many wonderful stories about kids who weren't allowed to do something, or they didn't think they could do it, and then they did it, and then they became an expert at that, or their parents bought them a tandem bike, and then they did some amazing ride. And these kind of things happen all the time.
So, well, unfortunately, a lot of kids with visual impairments that don't have some of these opportunities, they might not have many opportunities in their community. They might not even be able to join a sport or a team if they're not aware that they can be adapted or that there's other options.
Well, there was less opportunity, less know-how, and unfortunately there still is at some level. Some of the research that we've done, we've seen that there's still barriers out there with just teachers not being trained as much.
So I think a lot of kids, often it's unfortunately, sometimes they would just be walking around the gym and that's their PE class, and they wouldn't have the opportunities to participate, and they wouldn't have the outside of school opportunities to participate. So a lot of it really comes from them learning what options there are.
Most programs only have maybe one course on adapted physical education, and so these students are coming out teachers, and if they run into a child with a disability, a lot of times they just don't know because they haven't had the educational background.
For most visually impaired children, they seem to be pushed to the side when it comes to physical education in school and in life. This mentality stifles opportunities for these children and results in an increased sense of fear when engaging in sports.
Kids in general often decrease a lot of the activities that they're doing as they get older for many reasons, and if they were never exposed at a young age, then it's that much harder. So,
because we're teaching them all the modifications they need, we're teaching them how to self-advocate, and we're teaching them their rights, but we're also teaching their teachers and their parents. So now we have a team of people, so that next generation that's coming up really knows what they need. And it's just wonderful because the more they're in the community, the more people see what they can do and change their perceptions.
So part of that is just continuing to increase awareness and educational opportunities. That's one of the big things that we do, not only with camp, but with our institute, the Institute of Movement Studies for Individuals with Visual Impairment and Deaf Blindness, is really getting information out there so that we can help increase knowledge base with those that are working more directly with these kids.
Because what we realize is it doesn't matter what you do this week. If you can't carry that beyond camp, if you still let your mother brush your hair and your father tie your shoes, and you let somebody else pick your clothes out for you, and you let somebody tell you that it's okay to sit on the sidelines in physical education, then your life's not going to change.
So one of the biggest things is they come here and then they learn all the different activities that they can do. And then what we really want them to do is go home and advocate for themselves and say, hey, can we add a goalball team? Or hey, can we have a modification so I can play baseball?
Typically, our research does say that kids with visual impairments are less physically active than their peers. They also reach their motor milestones later. But what we are trying to promote is improved locomotor skills and improved object control when they're younger.
Motor development and motor learning are two areas of specialty that Pam and Melanie focus on in relation to adapted physical education. Motor development refers to how motor behavior changes across a person's lifespan. This ranges from infancy until adulthood.
When you're young, you've got a lot of changes structurally. You're going to grow, you're going to develop muscle tone, and you're going to make a lot of changes in that regard. And of course, later on, other influences, such as the environment which you grow up in, might influence what kinds of activities you do. The people around you will definitely influence that as well. And there's a multitude of other things. So that's really what motor development's all about.
Well, one of the biggest things is that they lack the visual stimuli, the motivating factor. And you see it very early on. One of the biggest things is when infants are learning how to, like the motor milestones such as crawling, creeping, standing up, walking. One of the biggest motivators is they see a ball that they want to go get, or they see a sibling and their sibling is running around and they really want to run around and do all the same things that their sibling is doing. So without that visual stimuli, then they're much more delayed in doing all of those different developmental motor milestones. So even if physically they're completely capable in doing those different skills, they usually are quite delayed. So they can be delayed as much as a year for walking, and then that compounds itself with other activities, and they're delayed with running.
So we've written books, we've made videos, we've made tip sheets, we've helped create equipment to help kids with visual impairments reach those motor milestones a lot sooner, so that when they are in physical education they can access the same sports as their peers.
But we tend to focus more on the process. So how they're moving, so like the flight phase. Do they have the flight phase? Or where is their foot connecting with the ball when they're kicking the ball? And to see if their movement coordination patterns are appropriate. And then that gives a a way to teach them how to move more appropriately.
For more information, visit campabilities.org. You will find videos, the Camp Abilities Handbook and templates, as well as other useful materials under the Media tab. Under the Instructional tab, you will find several videos that go step by step on how to be inclusive in sports like volleyball, tennis, kickball, and more. You will also find information about other camps, a blind soccer program, and resources for children with moderate and severe disabilities. There are tip sheets on how to be inclusive with people with autism, cerebral palsy, Charge syndrome, just to name a few. Anyone can be active and enjoy sports.
Some kids might be a little more cautious because they're nervous about getting hurt. And also, you might hear a noise and you don't know what it is, so you're kind of standoffish because you want to make sure you're safe when it might not be something that's to be afraid of. And then sometimes it is something to be afraid of, and it's good that they slowed down.
I've been visually impaired all my life, and I can't see out of my right eye. And I have glaucoma in my left, so doing sports has always been a little difficult sometimes, especially when I got into like team sports in my high school and my middle school, and coaches were really worried about my safety.
When Chris was in high school, he tried out for the cross-country team. His coaches were unaware of his visual impairment, but Chris was confident in his ability to succeed because of his previous experiences at Camp Abilities.
But I thought my coach was just super chill, and I mean, they are nice, but once they found out, they were very worried because they didn't want me to get injured. And I was put in a situation where I can either find a solution where, I'll be safe, or I can't be on the team.
The Chris Smoker story is one that comes back over and over again where, his coaches did not want, the athletic director and the coaches did not want him to be on the cross-country team. They thought he was going to get hurt. And they were so worried about him getting hurt that they actually made his mother come and run with him at the beginning of the season. And that wasn't fair. Nobody else's mother had to come and run with them in the cross-country game, in the cross-country practice.
Pretty intense, I'd say. But eventually I got a old friend of mine to run cross-country with me for a little bit. He wasn't a professional runner or anything, but he had done baseball before. So it was good for the races that were only like a mile long to 2 miles long. But I guess that was an example of advocating I'd never had to do before in my life.
And they were still so nervous about him running. First race, he came in third. He came in third. And so he showed them what he could do, and his times were incredible. And so he proved them wrong.
Learning the ability to ask for help and sometimes show coaches who, not all coaches are trying to belittle you or be crude or mean.
When I found out that his mother had to go to practice with him, I was so mad, and I called and I said, who's the athletic director? And it was, the athletic director was the one who was making these barriers because they didn't know. They didn't know the possibilities. They didn't know how much he could see, and they didn't know his potential.
But there's a genuine concern, and if you can be confident or if you can show a reasonable adaptation, to whatever degree you find effective and still makes the sport fun, I think is always worth it. And I'm glad I learned it there, since now I love running. And I mean, of course, running hurts, but no pain, no gain.
I will fight tooth and nail for the kids. I mean, I won't take exclusion. It's not fair. It's not right.
Not all visually impaired students have trouble finding their way into sports. Luke Fortner, another campgoer from Fairport, New York, and his father Mike received help in getting Luke onto the cross-country team.
Whenever Luke was on the cross-country team, he had a coach that was specifically assigned to him. And this coach, ran the races with him. Sometimes we had some other people running races with him because sometimes there was a point in the end where Luke was a little bit faster than the coach.
And Luke loved sports. He just loved to do any kind of sports, and he tried so hard. He always tried his best. And he was one of the first one in Section 5, Luke was, this is Section 5, this area, on his cross-country team, all over the news. You know, it was just really cool how they interviewed his parents and they went to his cross-country meets, and that was really fun.
And because of Camp Abilities, Luke ended up being what we're pretty sure is the first blind runner in Section 5. And he ran cross-country from the time he was a 7th grader all the way until he was even eligible for a post-high school program. And he ran, after his senior year, he ran another year of cross-country. And, you know, it was never leading the pack, but many times he wasn't finishing last either. And his whole goal was to get better every day.
Luke ended up being a lead story in the Rochester, New York newspaper and local TV station. He went viral on social media after a cross-country track meet in Cazenovia, New York.
He had a famous fall at an invite in Cazenovia that went viral, and we're getting phone calls from our cousins in Arizona saying, "We just saw Luke on TV," because he fell and a kid from Cazenovia helped him up, and it made, you know, national news. It was just kind of it's been kind of a great experience, and none of that would have happened if it wasn't for Camp Abilities.
My confidence skyrocketed after going to camp, realizing there were so many people like me after not knowing anyone in my school that were visually impaired. So I worked up the courage to join the indoor track team, the outdoor track team, and my coach actually found out I had a visual impairment about a year and a half joining.
Peter was born with an eye condition known as retinoblastoma, which is cancer in the retinas. He joined Camp Abilities at 16, which profoundly made a difference in his life. He couldn't get enough. He quickly rose through the ranks from camper to coach to now being a team leader, where he plans events for Camp Abilities.
Peter is such a go-getter, and he's so humble. And you talk about someone who is an elite level triathlete, and you say, "Hey, how was your day yesterday?" "Oh, I just rode my bike 67 miles. Just, you know, rode out past Kendall, went to whatever, Batavia, and then came back." He is an amazing person, really professional, really a go-getter, never complains, and he loves the field. I love how much he loves the field.
Lauren is the reason I'm here. She completely opened my eyes to the sport of disability sport and what it means to be a leader. I had no clue what I wanted to do going into my senior year of high school. And then after talking with her and looking over what I could do for camp, that's why I'm here at Brockport. Lauren and I have spent countless hours working on projects together, both for myself and for her, and for the whole SUNY Brockport adaptive program itself.
He's already done research with me. He's been my research fellow, and he will do anything for camp. He'll do anything for me, for research, for our program. Just, I feel so blessed to have him in our program.
Lauren has been a trailblazer in the world of adapted sport for well over 20 years now. So I'm trying to fill her footsteps. I never will be able to fill her footsteps, but I'm definitely trying to. I'm going off to graduate school and hopefully doctoral school in the same adaptive phys ed program to hopefully contribute more and kind of take the torch from her at some point.
All athletes who are new to the camp will show up nervous, of course, miss their parents, maybe wonder why they're there, definitely lack confidence in participating in sports, will sometimes lack confidence in mobility skills.
He was actually not a little, he was very apprehensive in the beginning. Really didn't want to do it.
Things I really was self-conscious about is when you go to Camp Abilities and they have these evening activities, and there's things where you do kayaking or canoeing, and at that point or stand-up paddleboarding. I'd never done anything like that, and obviously it was terrifying for a young Chris who doesn't even really like swimming in a lake or anything that is in a pool anyway.
We've definitely had a wide range of campers, from those that are really nervous, getting a little homesick when they first get there, to those that are just ready to experience new things. So it definitely depends on their personality.
I remember, this is like one of the only times in my whole life I've ever, at that time anyway, been away from like my entire family for an entire week. So it was pretty exciting to meet other students and other kids and teenagers, just like me who have, impairments.
It seems like a lot of them have not played sports at all. The kind of classic case, and that's why I think Camp Abilities was started, is they are excluded illegally from physical education classes at school. They are excluded from playing sports. And also, I've noticed that some parents want to wrap their visually impaired and blind children in bubble wrap.
And after the first year, liked it. I think he liked the idea that I was able to stay overnight with him. But I really tried to make it important that my role when I was there, especially the years where I was a counselor, a lot of times the only time I saw Luke was when he happened to be working with my group that I was working with, and at night.
You have to try to involve yourself, or else no one will involve you, because sometimes it's a hassle. People see it as that. And when I went to Camp Abilities, it was like, wow, I'd never experienced so much inclusivity in like a summer camp. And it's only a week long, so it was amazing for me.
He liked the running. He loved tandem biking. He would do tandem biking all the time. He liked the canoeing and some of the things that would happen. In fact, I think he was famously one of the first people to ever tip over in a canoe.
So going for the first time, I didn't know what to expect because I never been to a camp, let alone a sports camp with those for visual impairments. So I thought I had the worst off being with visual impairment, which I was horribly wrong about, and I developed a great admiration for those with visual impairment.
Say my favorite things is how the goal of Camp Abilities is to, instead of focusing on the stereotype that people with impairments can't do anything, it's a camp where it encourage people to look past, the stereotypes that people may perceive, and show, especially younger generations, that they don't have to be ashamed, and they can do stuff just like I can run cross crunchy. I can run better than some other people who can see.
And eventually I wanted to work with students with more disabilities going to the camps. So starting off, I was, like I said, I didn't know what to expect. And then by day 2, I felt right at home with everyone else.
I guess stuff where you're really independent, I guess. Like even, paddleboarding, beat baseball was a worry because everybody's blindfolded, and when someone hits a ball and everybody's rushing towards it in the field, you can't see and no one's making a sound, so you don't know if people are right next to you or not. You just only hear rustling of the grass, but obviously I overcame those fears and I love doing both now.
Going to camp is absolutely electric. I think we're a big family for the whole week, and that camp family sticks with you for the rest of the year. We're always going to each other's events, supporting each other, and during that week at camp, we eat together, we play together, we sleep together. So it just builds a sense of community, a sense of family.
I think the biggest thing with Luke was that it gave him a chance to connect with other people, and it also gave him a chance to see that he wasn't the only one in the world with a visual impairment.
Being in mainstream schools a lot of the time, sometimes they try to hide their disability. They try to pretend that they can keep up with things, and that they don't have maybe friends that fully understand what life is like with a vision impairment.
So I feel like it's kind of like me. They notice that wow, there's a lot of people like me, and they might not have known that before coming. And I also think it allows them to connect with people just like them.
I think a lot of these kids, in some cases, don't have other visually impaired or blind friends in their lives. And I can attest to that. It's nice when I meet someone else who has a visual impairment and I can relate to their experience in the world.
For them, it's such a huge bonding experience. So they're seeing some of their best friends that they haven't seen for a while. So that's just kind of seeing that excitement.
So I guess the real experience from being able to do, beat baseball or even goalball, or just be able to run around and talk with other kids who can relate to you on some degree, it was nice and something I hadn't really experienced since.
So the peer support that they get at camp is really important, and that continues after camp as well. That the kids really enjoy just being around other kids, not having to pretend, being open about their impairment and being able to ask just questions, very simple questions around how their friends at camp overcome little daily obstacles, be that in sport, be that in school, be that in anything.
Camp Abilities Summer Camp is for children above the age of 9, but for kids who are too excited to wait, Camp Abilities holds a mini camp every winter. The students are able to ice skate, play hockey, goalball, and so much more. Camp Abilities extends beyond the United States and into multiple countries. Currently, there are 29 camps in the U.S., which include Alaska, Washington, Pennsylvania, Florida, California, and Texas. There are 10 international camps in places like Brazil, Ireland, and Switzerland. Efforts are also underway to create new camps.
I was already a coach for basketball, soccer, and lacrosse, and she invited me to come out to her camp and check it out. And she also encouraged me to start my own camp, which I thought was crazy. But as you all may know, Lauren is incredibly convincing and energetic.
I like to think that we are helping the campers that come to camp understand their own potential. Some, they might be the only child with a visual impairment in their whole community. It can be a very isolating thing. So letting them know that there's other children like them out there is very helpful.
And so I did start my own camp. I created a nonprofit in 2016. In August, I held my first weekend camp in October of 2016. And then the following 3 years held a 5-day overnight camp.
I suppose it is to have a can-do attitude. Some of the children that we work with will say that they do come up against barriers in their daily lives. In school, they're still told sometimes they can't do things. When they go to sports clubs and centres, sometimes they're told, no, we don't cater for somebody with a vision impairment.
And now you see some of them working together outside of camp to play on different sports teams. We have one camper and a counselor duo that are working to do the Ironman. Another camper turned counselor is working on the Ironman as well. Like just seeing all these, growth and success, it's just amazing.
And the message that we try to give through camp, and I'd like to give to your viewers as well, is that there's always a way around it, that children with a vision impairment have the right to take part, and we sometimes need to stand up and help.
The manual to start your own Camp Abilities is a downloadable PDF from the Camp Abilities website. Lauren gives you all the tools you need, from first-hand training to starting your own camp.
And it was 2016. I was home sick from work one day and had free HBO, sat down on the couch, turned on HBO, and literally starting at that moment was a real sports documentary on Camp Abilities.
I originally went to SUNY Brockport for my undergraduate and master's degree. I left with a master's in adapted physical education. At the time, I was one of Lauren Lieberman's graduate assistants, so I was one of the ones that helped run camp and organize it and get everything to where it is.
Because I didn't know exactly what kind of camp exists in Switzerland. I didn't know exactly if it will be a good fit to develop this project in Switzerland.
Yeah, I suppose we've had a lot of young people through the camp now at this stage, and we have asked them, what have they got out of camp?
And I lost my mind. I cried. I was joyous. I emailed Lauren immediately after watching that and said, I want to get involved.
So the director said, yes, this project seems really good, really reliable for the children with visual impairment in Switzerland, and there's nothing similar.
And there's a lot of things, I suppose, we focus on three main areas at our camps in Ireland. So we look at the sports development side. So we are looking to introduce new sports, to develop skills in sports that the children have been involved in already, and to challenge the kids in adventure activities as well.
My success story is the joy of being able to open the door for kids with VI, but also giving students the opportunity to jump in the new project and to help me to collaborate to develop this project.
One of my favorite stories is this girl named Hope who came to camp, and I'll never forget it. She was very quiet and very shy. And as her mom was driving away, she's like, "Oh, by the way, my daughter hates sports." I'm like, this is a sports camp. The mom was gone. Well, this girl, Hope, was not really participating. She would be sitting cross-legged in the outfield for beat baseball.
But at camp, we really, after a day or two, it's usually the parents that have a harder time having their children come and be away. Sometimes it's their first time their child is away from home. And so we joke that, you know, by Wednesday, you're going to be more worried and wondering why they're not calling you at night anymore, just because they're having so much fun at camp.
Well, by the end of the week, she was the only girl, the only athlete in the entire camp who hit a ball off the pitch.
The second thing we work a lot on is independence. So we work alongside the National Council for the Blind to develop independence in everything they do at camp.
So I can see the change, but I see that it was a good opportunity for them to meet each other and to experiment a new sport in a new context with a new person outside of school and family.
This girl, when she saw her mom, I mean, her mom was like, "What did you what did you say? What did you do?" Like, the mom just could not understand the difference in her child. And to this day, you know, this girl just loves camp, cannot wait to come back.
And you can really, you know, see the change, especially campers that come year after year, the growth and their ability to, you know, just express themselves more, have that more confidence, and really, you know, grow. And hopefully we've given that to them.
Being a residential camp, there's lots of opportunity for independence from everything. When you arrive, you have to dress your own bed, you have to unpack your own bag, through to getting around the place. We look at the mobility skills that we can develop in the dining room. We do cookery classes and things like that as well.
I see a new friendship between children who didn't know each other, because I developed this camp in the center based on Lausanne, which is a big city in Switzerland. But most of the children didn't live in Lausanne. They live in different area.
But it's not me saying, "Oh, well, you don't have a camp here, we should have it." It's somebody says, "Hey, can I come visit your camp? I want to start a camp where I live." And I'm like, "Great, just come to our camp, and then you see how we run it, and then you can run your camp, and we'll help you." And now that we have so many of our graduate students and so many specialists out there that know what to do, if I can't go, I'll send one of my former grad students or send one of our specialists or two.
It just, every year, it's like you see these kids hitting a ball off the pitch. You see kids doing all these things for the first time. And they're, excuse me, just to see them push through their fear. I'm sorry. It's just so amazing. And I'm sorry.
Oh.
It's just really a thrill.
You do really see this growth in the children over the week, and it is great to see that, you know, just that simple intervention, this magic that is there around Camp Abilities, this can-do attitude just rubs off on the kids and they absorb it like sponges. And it is really just great to be part, you know, of witnessing that transformation.
I think it's always important to, remember what camp has done for everyone, not just the campers that come, the counselors that come, and the staff that comes. In high school, I didn't even know what a teacher for the visually impaired was, but I went to camp, I fell in love.
I applaud them for taking on these things and pushing themselves. So it's really my favorite part of camp is at the final day and you have the parents come see their children and the parents are blown away on what their children are doing and getting around and excelling in these different sports that they never played before. It's just the best. There's nothing better.
Being able to advocate for oneself is key. So many times, visually impaired students are being self-contained when it comes to physical education classes. They are put with students who have cerebral palsy or nonverbal autistic students, which is challenging for a visual impaired student who needs verbal cues. In addition, these students want to be participating with their friends from class during their PE classes.
So she went to her IEP meeting and she said, I want to be in the physical education class with my friends. I don't want to be in that self-contained class. I don't belong there. I'm a good athlete. I went to Camp Abilities. I can do a lot of sports. Bang. And I got to be in her general PE class with her friends. She went, she advocated, she told them what she wanted, and she changed her placement. She did that. And so then when she stood up at camp and told the other kids, a couple kids are like, I want to be with my friends too. They make me go, and some of the kids are in a class, they're the only one because they're so afraid they're going to get hurt.
Their ability to more self-advocate for their needs at their schools as well. I think that's one of a big outcomes of the camp is that they have more confidence and knowing what they need and also how to communicate that.
To fight for those rights, but also to show kids themselves, families, coaches, how to do it, that it can be simple. It can be as simple as having a sound source. It can be as simple as changing the color of the ball by just giving some more verbal instructions. So little simple changes can make it very easy to include somebody with a vision impairment.
That sense of community and empowerment and the need and to believe you can achieve, it really sticks with you. So I'm very fortunate anyone that's ever been a part of our program.
I want to say a big thank you to the entire Camp Ability community for giving me the opportunity to develop this project that can truly make a difference in the life of youth with disabilities.
I don't know if I can say it without crying again, but I will try. I have so much gratitude for Lauren Lieberman. She is an amazing leader and an innovator.
I like Lauren. She's a good person, and the energy she gives off is just motivation, like pure motivation. Whenever she comes to Tops by, all the kids get motivated in whatever sport they're doing, or if she's talking to us, or she's teaching a lecture or something. It's powerful words.
I just, I don't believe in coincidence anymore. And when I sat down on that couch that day and turned on a channel that I normally didn't have, and to see the real sports on Camp Abilities, to see what Lauren has done and all the camps she's inspired, for me, she's a celebrity and a rock star, and she's always available for me, and she's my biggest cheerleader.
There are 63,000 blind and visually impaired elementary, middle school, and high school students in the United States. There are about 1,000 students attending all the Camp Abilities in the U.S. every year. Lauren wants to be able to touch all 63,000 students.
So there's 62,000 kids out there in the U.S. that haven't had a chance to go to a sports camp, learn the modifications, learn the self-advocacy. How do we help them? So the 62,000 project is all this research that we're doing and developing videos like this that are going to help spread the word to all those other teachers and parents and families and kids to help them access physical activity and sports.
That maybe don't have access to these resources. Maybe they don't have good instructors. Maybe they don't know what to ask for or how to advocate for themselves. But these kids at camp, by participating in this research, are really helping them eventually in the long run.
We're not saying research, but they get it, that it's research. But it's not about you and your time today. It's about your voice and your opinion on this that's going to help a child in the future.
I really like, because Dr. Lieberman came up with that idea, and I just thought it was such a great approach because it really demonstrates the potential impact that we can have through this camp.
My goal and my dream is to keep starting new Camp Abilities, keep doing research and helping this next generation of teachers and kids get what they need to have the kids perform equally to their peers.
And I feel like giving more kids the opportunity, more states, more countries, more territories. So giving more and more athletes the chance to experience Camp Abilities and all it can bring you is the number one goal for the future.
It's just an amazing experience. Everyone that has been able to be part of it, I think it changes them in some ways. It's just an incredible thing that Lauren has built. It's turned into so much, and it's unbelievable. In 25 years, how much it's truly grown, and how many lives have been affected and benefited by it. It's incredible.